Good morning, everyone. My wife has finally agreed. It's not actually morning, by the way. It's evening. That's the sun setting. That's where the sun rises. That's my wife. But, I think that it's important that we actually get to talk to my wife. We've talked about these plans to move to Ecuador or Panama or Nicaragua. Like, we've talked about them. But you've only heard my side. You've never heard her side. And so I think that it'll be fun. You know, we've been out tonight, gone to a restaurant, maybe had a few drinks. And it'll be fun to hear her side. Oh, by the way, we met with the financial advisor today. It went swimmingly. Like, he was just like, I wish you guys luck. And I know you'll have it. I don't know that it could have gone any better than how it went. And I know, like I've said, this blog is basically my release, my how I cope with life right now, and maybe when we get down to Ecuador or Panama or Nicaragua or wherever we decide to go, I might stop. But this is my release right now, and having our financial advisor say, like, look, this is not a big deal. Go. I thought that. I mean, that's kind of what he said, right?
Yeah, he pretty much gave us the green light to pursue whatever it is that we want to do.
So I think that that's a pretty good thing. But obviously, with 3 kids and a cat, so like 4 kids, 5 if you count Kristin. She doesn't count herself, but I do. That's fine. We got the green light, so I think that I'm excited. The next step is, when do we tell our families? We'll probably tell Kristin's family first. They'll probably be more accepting than when I tell my mother. And then, when I tell my sister, that might be bad. But this isn't about me. It isn't about that. It's about her and what she thinks. And so I want to kind of turn the mic over. We'll ask some questions and, understand what it's all about. So without further ado, the leading lady, here she is.
So, I am Kristin. I am John's wife of 17 years.
17 years.
We have known each other for 21 years, so we will both be
21.
40.
Have you calculated? Is it 21?
It's 21. We've both known each other since we were 18 years old. We'll both be 40 next year. So we have known and chosen to spend over half of our life together.
Okay. So, tell the people about your work life. Like, you went to college. Like, you are the scholar of the household. So tell the people about your.
I was born and raised in Spencer, Iowa. I went to school at
That's
Minnesota
where we live
State.
now.
Yes. So born and raised Spencer, Iowa. Left temporarily for 4 years to pursue my education, and then returned, and that's where we've been. I am BSN by trade.
What's a BSN?
Bachelor of Science in Nursing, which means I completed 4 years of a Bachelor of Science degree at Minnesota State in their nursing program. I graduated with honors, which is not easy to do. They only accept 40 students per semester in their program at that time.
Oh, I didn't even know that. You graduated with honors?
So, yes.
I didn't know, like, you wore the ropes and stuff.
I did.
I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Like, I was there at your graduation. I
yeah.
didn't even know that that was a thing. I know that your graduation took, like, 10 hours. Like, we were there just forever.
So, anyway, I graduated with honors. I think I ended up with, like, a 3.9 GPA-ish. Give or take a few points there.
So basically 2.6.
No.
I give or take.
But I completed it in 4 years. Went in with
and
credits.
I'm gonna go ahead and say she worked really hard. Like, I remember the flashcards. We had flashcards for your prescriptions.
For pharmacology.
Oh my gosh. Like, I learned what drugs are. I don't remember anymore. But I learned, and it was terrible.
So anyway, I completed that degree in 4 years. Graduated with honors, and then started my career at Spencer Hospital on the med-surg floor.
What's med-surg?
Medical surgical. So at that time, the hospital was a 40-bed unit. They did anything from knees to hips to full bowel resections.
What's a bowel resection?
Where they remove all bowels and then give people a colonoscopy or a colon bag to collect stool. They did gynecological procedures. They did ENT procedures. We're a small community. How
many people live? Like, you grew up here. How many people live in this community?
We're about a 10,000 person community, give or take, any given year. We probably have 6 stoplights in town, but we have an awesome hospital facility and doctor's office that I am proud to.
What about our schools?
So we are approximately 125 students per grade level. We have a K through 12 program. We have 2 private schools that complete through 6th grade and then join with the public school. We complete all athletics. We do all types of arts like band, choir, dramas, mock trials, model UNs. Pretty much,
we didn't have
Spencer
most of that
has
George.
pretty much embraced their students and their families in that capacity. So anyway, back to my history.
Sorry.
John is great at interrupting.
That's what I do.
And so anyway, I worked a year on the medical surgical floor, gained some great experiences, worked with great doctors, medical doctors, surgical doctors, OBGYN doctors, orthopedic doctors. And then I made my way into the obstetrics unit. We were an 8-bed unit.
What's obstetrics?
Labor and delivery was our primary goal. But we would treat anybody from 21 weeks till delivery and sending them home, postpartum care, and then we would even do follow-up care with them within their home. And with that, I had obtained, I was a breastfeeding educator and firm believer in breast is best, but you know what? Feed your baby however you want. I support all women, all moms. And then I also was an NRP instructor, which is neonatal resuscitation program. That is CPR for newborns. And I did that for 9 years. And so I worked for the OB unit in Spencer Hospital for 10 years, delivered 2 of my babies while I worked for them. And then I did a gradual leave. I kind of worked full-time. Then I had our oldest son, went part-time. Had our second son 2 years later, went on call, and then had our daughter and decided that after about a year of that, I needed to leave.
You quit before Emily, didn't you?
No, I did not. I actually worked a year after Emily was born.
Okay.
Just as an on-call nurse, and realized that with John's travels and the needs at home with having 3 kids under 5 years old, that my place was to be at home. So I dedicated 6 years to be full-time at home.
So what year did you, quit the hospital?
I quit the hospital in 2014.
Well, I thought it was 2010.
Nope. So 2014, I quit the hospital officially after just shy of 10 years. I think I was 26 days shy of 10 years. They actually encouraged me to stay until my 10-year anniversary, but I told them that this was my time and I needed to exit. I would not hesitate in a heartbeat to go back to them.
Yeah.
Great facility. I have lots of gals that I still remain in contact with. OB will always be my passion. My love, moms, babies, always my passion. But my calling was at home with my family, with my children, raising my kids. John and I had 3 kids under the age of 5 at that time. At that time, we had
we have
3 kids under the age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was in school, and my place was at home. And it was an encouraged transition from John, maybe more reluctant on my part, but...
So expound on that a little more. So expound on the fact that you decided to stay home, maybe with some reluctance from people in your life. Like, why don't just explain it all?
So I guess when the transition occurred, John and I had talked about it for a long time. We have very open communication. And I knew it was the right decision for my family, but as a professional, as somebody of
went
modern
to school
day,
for 4 years.
I gave 4 years of my life. I probably have a little PTSD from nursing school, and the dedication and the commitment that I gave to that. It was a hard decision to give up. I had given 4 years. I had worked hard for this degree. It was something I was very passionate about. I'm still very passionate about. Let's don't discount that. And there were people that I thought I was very close to at the time that wondered if I was giving up a part of me or had my 4-year degree been a waste. And I like to think that I have just put my professional life on hold. Nursing is a great profession in that as long as I maintain my nursing licensure, which I do, I have to...
I think you should focus on that for just a moment. Like, even though that you're not like a full-time nurse anymore, you still don't tell the people what it takes to continue to be a nurse. It's not just a thing that you do once.
Yeah, so every 3 years, I am licensed through the state of Iowa currently. And so when I chose to stay home with our family and raise our children, full-time, 100%, no daycare, no assistance, anything like that. The requirements for the state of Iowa are 36 contact hours.
What does that mean?
So it's just a numeric device that they use that it's equivalent to 36 hours of either a continuing education, whether that be online or an in-person.
What is continuing education? What do you have to do for continuing education?
So it can be an online class, something that I'm interested in. It can be just attending a seminar or a webinar. It can be attending an online or a in-person or an online classroom setting.
Something basically about...
that pertains to nursing.
To nursing or people care or something like that.
Yes.
So you have to do how many hours of that?
36 hours every 3 years.
Every 3 years. And you can split that 36 hours
however
across the 3 years.
So during that time, I have chosen to maintain my neonatal resuscitation. Do I see myself going back into OB? At this day, no. Is it always an option if my family were to need me to return to hospital setting or patient care? Absolutely. I would not hesitate to re-enter the OB field. That is truly my love, my passion. I love moms. I love babies. I love new families. I love being there for that moment. But right now, that's not where my calling is. I've retained my advanced cardiac life support, which was something that our hospital required us all nurses to have. And then also, of course, with my licensure, I am a mandatory reporter, and I retain my basic life support in that. So fast forward, I stayed home for 6 years. Emily entered preschool. The school district nurse
So
approached me.
Emily, like these people don't know this.
Emily is currently 8,
Our youngest daughter.
our youngest daughter. So
So
when
we haven't talked. So like
again, John is interrupting.
I'm gonna interrupt. So like I haven't talked a lot about our family. You saw Emily in one of the previous videos, but she is our youngest daughter.
So Emily is currently 8, and so when she entered preschool, she went to the public preschool program. She was 5 at that time, and the district nurse was a close friend of mine, and she said, "Hey, do you need something to fill your days?" And I said, "I don't know. Let's try it out." So over the last 3 to 4 years, I have also been working with the Spencer Community School District as their school nurse as a sub. COVID hit. I worked 3 to 4 days per week. I split the position with another nurse in the community, and so we manned the 4th and 5th grade building at that time. And I found that I loved school nursing. I loved being with my kids every day. I loved being with their peers. I loved interacting with families. I loved interacting with the staff. And so I kind of renewed my spirit of nursing. And yeah, it was a good transition out of the stay-at-home mom world, but also maintaining that stay-at-home mom world that I have absolutely loved and adored, and spending time with my children. It's not for the faint of heart. I will be the first to admit that, but
Why?
I wouldn't give that up for anything.
Why?
It's hard work.
Why is staying at home hard?
I often thought at times I was jealous of women that could drop their kids off at daycare, go to a job, be an adult, dress professionally, do their hair, do their makeup, come home. Their husbands may or may not have cooked or cleaned. The house was always maintained. And there's a luxury in that for sure.
Tell me about your life growing up. Like, you don't have to bash your mother or anything. It's just, tell me about your life growing up, about how you grew up, versus how you're helping your children grow up.
So my mom is also a nurse. I am second generation nurse. She worked full time. She worked a lot.
And she's a hard worker.
She is a hard worker. She retired, took another job.
What'd she do?
She was a lunch lady at Hy-Vee, loved it, but
I mean,
now she has chosen to retire again after
Hy-Vee.
COVID.
So.
And so Hy-Vee is a local grocery store in the Midwest.
The people know I showed them Hy-Vee.
Okay. So anyway, she ran the lunch line there. You'd place your order for your lunch or your breakfast. She would call your number. You'd come up and get it from her. She absolutely loved it. It was a great way for her.
Tell the fun. Listen.
No. Listen.
Tell the funniest part about the people that she would take the orders from.
If you'd let me talk, I might get to it instead of interrupting like you always do.
That's what I do.
So she loved it because she got to see all of her patients that she worked with at the clinic. She worked there for almost 35 years at the local clinic here in Spencer. And so she would get to see all of her patients that she had seen for 35 plus years. And they would be on special diets, no salt, no extra this, no extra that, low this, low that.
Definitely not syrup.
And so they come to order their breakfast, and she can serve them whatever they want. And she was in heaven because she got to reconnect with all those patients and did not care that they were having extra syrup or salt on their eggs or drinking an extra cup of coffee or an orange juice for whatever their health conditions may be. She is going to retire again at the end of the month. They caught wind that she was a nurse, so she spent many an hour giving COVID vaccines this spring and winter.
Well, will you expound? So today I did, and you haven't seen the video yet. I know you've been following my channel about the COVID vaccine and stuff, and today I did a video.
So did you want me to talk about my childhood?
Well, I will, but but we've gotten to the COVID vaccine part, and so will you expound on, as a nurse, how you feel about the COVID vaccine and all of that? I mean, we've obviously both had it.
So we have
Will
my
will you,
reasoning for getting it.
and will you tell, and maybe you won't, the few problems that you've had since? Like I said something in my video today, but I didn't want to talk about you specifically. And if you want to share that, I'd be okay with it. But if you don't want to share it, it's fine. But I think that it's important.
So was working at the school. We were 100% full time in school every single day. Yay, Spencer Tigers!
Spencer Tigers.
The B team nurse pulled it together. We kept our
What's
students
the B team
and
nurse?
our staff.
What's the B
Me
team nurse?
and Shelby rocked it at Lincoln School.
I call Kristin the B team nurse because
We
she
are
was the
both
called in
subs,
nurse, and so.
And it started out, we were going to work the first 2 weeks of school, then it was the first month, and then it turned into I was literally there until the very last minute of school, serving the community, serving our students and families, and helping them navigate the COVID pandemic. Whoop, whoop. We are the B team nurse, and we rocked it. We actually, at our building, had the lowest count of COVID people and on quarantine, both positive and those that were put on quarantine due to exposure. We had the lowest rate out of the entire school district. So anyway, tooting my own horn there, but backtrack to November. I masked, I hand washed. I felt like I was both an advocate for my students, my staff, my community. I did what I was told. And I was a role model. These kids looked to me, and so I thought I was 100% on my game. Diagnosed with COVID. I test COVID positive.
So let's talk about how that happened. You one day came to me and said, I have this cold.
So I came down with what I thought was my yearly sinus infection. Every year I get a sinus infection in November. I figured that's what it was. But I also knew if I were to call in, it was my day off. I hadn't been feeling great for the last couple days. It had been crazy busy at the school. We were headed into Thanksgiving break. And I knew if a mom were to call in and tell me their kiddo had XYZ symptoms, I would send them for a COVID screen and not think anything of it. I know more than, so I called my district nurse, the nurse that was in charge of me, and said, this is what I'm experiencing for the last 2 days. I thought I just had a sinus infection. I was kind of stuffy, kind of feverish, kind of achy, kind of had a migraine headache, not unlike my typical Novembers. She sent me for a rapid screen. I didn't even pull home, which is about a 20-minute drive from the hospital where the screen is done. I didn't even get home, and she called me and told me I was COVID positive. I absolutely did not think I was going to be COVID positive. I isolated in my bedroom. I wore a mask everywhere in the house, sanitized, and nobody in our house got COVID. And I would say I am very affectionate with my children. Not inappropriately. Just, I am very... I hug, I kiss, I cuddle. Like, we are very close. Me and the 3 kids are super close. Probably obnoxiously close to my husband if you would ask him about it. Never thought that any of them would scathe through and not be tested positive. Not so much as a cough, a sniffle, a sneeze from any of our children. And noted, my husband would go to a shed on our property to work every day. And I was stuck, COVID positive, maintaining 6 feet distance in a mask, teaching our children.
I never thought about this until you just said it right now.
What?
Like, I had to work, and I never thought, like, oh, I bet Kristin had to make sure the kids were learning at school.
Yeah,
like
so
literally
the kids were still full-time on
just
school,
right now. Until just
and
right
I could
now.
not be closer to 6 feet from them. I had a COVID chair in our living room that still causes me shivers when I look at it. I have yet to sit in it because that is where I quarantine myself so I could be with my family, distanced, in a mask, away from anybody. And on our daughter's 8th birthday, I was released from my 10-day quarantine isolation and was able to hug our daughter.
She got to leave.
On her
she
8th
got
birthday.
to leave. And the rest of us still had a bunch of days left.
So anyway, fast forward. Before we had John's cousin as an internship living with us, we had thought that over the summer we would plan to move temporarily to a country of choice abroad, whether that be Panama, Ecuador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. We had been to all these places, Honduras, Belize. We weren't really sure where we were going to head. But at that time, back in April, May timeframe, we both decided we probably should get the COVID vaccine. Mostly because we wanted to be able to travel the world.
We just wanted to travel,
and
whether
we
moved or anywhere else. We just
time,
wanted to just travel.
At this time, we weren't thinking of a more permanent residency. We just wanted to go on vacation. And we thought, you know what? Probably airlines, countries of origin that we wanted to go to would probably request or require us to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So when I was sick with COVID, I have felt worse with previous sinus infections, previous illnesses. I've been positive for influenza a few years ago. I have felt worse with that. Fingers crossed, thank my lucky stars, I really did not have symptoms.
You didn't get the COVID like some
that people
other
talk about.
people got the COVID.
I felt worse after that first and then subsequently the second vaccine that I received. I actually felt worse with each of those for several days than I ever did when I was positive for COVID.
So I kind of today in my video hinted at some of the other problems you've had. And if you're comfortable talking about them, you can, because it's like not my place.
So
But I would say that you and I I would say that you and I are very pro-vaccine. And I would say that we're pro-vaccine for any part of our kids' lives. Like, you know, Ethan's 13. Has he had the HPV?
Yep, he has.
Okay, so, and there's a lot of people that are against that. Yeah. And so
it doesn't come without conversation.
Of course. But I want to make sure that the preface to this, what you're going to say is, we're very pro-vaccine. After Emily was born, will you explain what happened? Like, there was like a whole thing.
Yeah. So with Emily, after she was born, I had several health scares within a 3-month time period after she was born. To backtrack my entire pregnancy, I just felt like something was off, something was different, something wasn't okay. I had a wonderful physician that...
Your doctor has always been great. Like, I've never...
family friend.
Yes. Well, it was your mom.
My mom worked for him for 20 to 30 years. Never... ever hesitated with his judgment or his care, and I kept saying throughout my entire pregnancy, something is wrong, something isn't okay, something is different. I always just felt off when I was pregnant with Emily. Loved being pregnant. Loved it. Would have 10 kids if I could.
Like, seriously, like, you'd probably be pregnant right now.
Like,
if you
everything about pregnancy, labor and delivery, being a mom, I absolutely embrace. I absolutely love.
Your first 2 kids, you did it al natural.
Yes, I did not have any
And
medication.
and as a husband, whoa. But it actually was a really good experience.
So anyway, with Emily, I just knew something. My entire pregnancy was different. I was on and off bed rest with her. Just never felt good. Granted, I'd had 2 boys. This was a girl. We told the ultrasound tech, we do not make girls. Please check again.
That's a turtle versus the... I don't even remember, but she said...
Yeah, when she told us we were having a girl, which is the first time we ever knew during pregnancy.
We ever asked.
And she
says, do you see the turtle? And we both saw it.
And I was like...
And as a labor delivery nurse, did you know about the turtle?
Yes. And I said, we don't make girls,
well,
we make
she
boys.
Tricked me on that.
So anyway, I thought, you know, they would say, well, you're having a girl, not a boy. That's why it's different. And I just thought something was off. So fast forward, Emily's delivery went flawlessly. I got to deliver her. I had an epidural.
She had the epidural. I'll never forget.
John came home. I was in labor, and he said, I am not going to let you not have an epidural this time.
I'll never forget when the nurse walked in and goes, oh, Kristin, you have to push now.
So anyway.
But with the first 2, Kristin was like, I have to push now.
So anyway,
it was
to my story.
It's our story.
No, you've had your videos.
It's our story.
You've had your videos. Now you said you wanted to make one about me.
Our story. And so she had Emily with the epidural, and it was awesome.
So after I had Emily, approximately 6 weeks, I was hemorrhaging. Went into the OR.
I'll never forget that. She was, if it's okay if I say, she was in her bathroom and she was bleeding everywhere. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, I immediately thought, I'm going to be raising 3 kids by myself. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. So anyway, I was taken to the OR and had a DNC.
What's a DNC?
Well, they went in and cauterized my uterus, thinking I just had abnormal bleeding. Again, about 3 weeks later, I woke up in the middle of the night, was hemorrhaging again, taken again for an emergency DNC. Third time it happened 2 weeks later. It was actually my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
Woke up in the kind of early morning, was hemorrhaging again. I went into the ER for the 3rd time now, and I told the OBGYN, I don't want more children. Just make this so this won't go away, that this will stop.
Get it going.
I can't do this anymore. I'm not healthy. I'm not raising my daughter well. I'm tired. I'm beyond
and Kristin,
able to take care of my children.
And Kristin, always, all 3 kids was a breastfeeder. I mean, that's what she did. It was a thing for her. I mean, it was like, I'm breastfeeding these kids. That's what I'm doing. And it was, we had cold breast milk in the fridge. And I would, for Ethan, I would just shove it in his mouth and it'd be like, just take it. With Oliver, we bought the warmer. And then with Emily, you were more at home. Right? But it was one of those things breast milk, breastfeeding was a real big thing for you, right?
Right. So anyway, on my 30th birthday, I had an emergency hysterectomy, and really I have been fine since. I have sought out hormone replacement therapy to keep myself the age that I am and not enter early menopause and the things that come along with that. And with that, I was able to breastfeed Emily
after the hysterectomy.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
So I had the hysterectomy when Emily was 3 months old, and I continued to breastfeed her up until she was over a year.
Yeah, it was a year.
Yeah.
And I think that, I think for any mom out there that's watching this, the first 2, we put them in their own beds, right? And When Ethan woke up, it was my job to get Ethan out of bed, change his diaper, and bring him to Kristin, right? And she would breastfeed and then put him back to bed. Oliver, pretty much the same way.
Oliver was just always a good sleeper.
Yeah, Oliver would sleep pretty much the entire night, right?
From the time we brought him home.
Yeah, I like maybe up twice a night or something. It was Oliver was easy. And Emily, she just slept on our bed, right? Like a co-sleeper type thing, except for we didn't have the co-sleeper. Let's talk about that for a minute. Like talk about the fact that a lot of people think that babies should go to their cribs or do whatever. I mean, when Oliver was born, we shut the baby monitors off. Right? I mean, that's weird for most people. Right?
We also shared a wall.
Huh? Well, we shared a wall. But, I mean, in order for him to wake us up, he had to scream pretty loud. Right? It wasn't like Ethan going, and then all of a sudden he was up. It was the kids had to scream loud. I don't think that makes any of us a bad parent. It's just the kid was actually up at that point, right? Can you expound on any of that? Like just, Emily sleeping in our bed, Oliver being loud, and that's when we got him up. Like think of any parents out there right now that are going to have their first baby, and they're like, I gotta have the video monitor, I gotta have all this other stuff. Can you
I think
their stuff is real, like what they think is real, like it's a true thing.
I think they need to do what's comfortable for them.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think each child, we learned new ways to cope with the way things were at that time.
And all three children, we did less monitoring. Shoot. Do you remember Ethan? In his bedroom, when we took his crib down to a bed, he would come out of his room just to wake us up for no reason. Right? Remember that? And then we put the door lock on the inside of his room. And so when we would go to visit him in the morning or to get him up in the morning, he might be sleeping anywhere in his room, right? So let's zoom forward to where we are now. Can we do that? Okay. Let's talk about what we're planning, what things have been like over the last 20 years, and what we're planning on doing. I think that's maybe what the people are interested in. I mean, our family's super cool, right? But let's talk about those things. Can we do that? Is that cool? Is that okay? Okay. So let's talk about what we're planning on doing. What were we planning on doing? Go ahead.
I don't know. I usually just kind of go along with the crazy schemes.
Why?
Because John is crazy.
So, we've talked about moving out of the country. We've talked about moving within the country. I mean, we've talked about all these different things, right? So, explain to the people why we're maybe doing what we're doing.
So, the theory being that by leaving the country, the hope would be that John could leave the stress and occupations that have consumed most of our 17 years of marriage behind. So in 17 years, I believe we were married about a year. And I had said that if you continue to work like this, I don't know that I can stay married to
So
this.
that's the true story. So I have not talked about this in any of our videos. My wife actually wrote me a letter. I'll never forget this. She wrote me a letter, and I said, just give me 5 years, and you'll live a life that you never would believe you could live.
And the life that we have lived, so fast forward 5 years up to 17 years, the life I wouldn't believe we could live would be John leaving Christmases, John leaving birthday parties, John leaving in the middle of suppers with our family, to make sure people had 911 service. And not that I hold any grudges against that, or making sure they have email or have access to this, that, and the other. I mean, of course, that's a service that's needed and people need that service, but the amount of time that has been taken from our family to give to others in the community and
So
really
so
throughout the world.
so expound on that a little. So you say I've left these different times. Can you give some bigger examples? It's easy to say, oh, he's left birthdays, he's left Christmases, he's left all this.
So,
So
like,
can you give some, like, can
so
you
I
expound on
know
that?
he had mentioned that he had some panic issues before we went to Nicaragua.
So my wife has watched all my videos to this
Back
point.
in December. I watched them today at the request of John. Um, and he has a panic attack before we leave to Nicaragua, and I tell him flat out, I will not take this on vacation. But every vacation that we take as a family, we can't just pick any Airbnb or Vrbo. It has to have X, Y, and Z capabilities regarding internet, phone service, cell service, Wi-Fi, whatever will keep him connected. We go to the beach, he brings his man purse, as the boys refer to it as. That has his laptop, his cell phones, his charger cables, his Wi-Fi access. He has to, within 2 to 3 weeks before we go on vacation, plan to have a SIM card readily available before we even leave the U.S. This is how we vacation, and this is a norm when we vacation, that we can never be far from his computer, his email, his text messages, his phone calls,
And internet.
and internet just in general. When we sit on the beach, I watch the children swim, I watch them surf, I get them drinks, I get them meals, and John is working at the table.
Talk about the times that I've had to leave. Like, give these people a realization of when I've had to leave.
Usually when John leaves a family function, a birthday party, a Christmas gathering, just an evening at home, he usually just says he checks his phone, he sees an email, he sees a text message, and it's, I have to go, I don't know when I will be home. And he will be gone for X number of hours. He may be back in an hour and resume our family functions. He may be gone for 3 or 4 days that I don't see him to fix functions of whatever kind. I don't ask a lot of questions. The kids don't ask a lot of questions. When he is fixing things, when he's able to fix them remotely, he's very short with our family. He's very short with our children. He usually doesn't make a lot of comments or a lot of banter, and it's very difficult at times to know. I wish there was a sign that popped up on his computer that says, I am working, do not disturb, because I don't always know if he's working on a work project or on a personal project.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love computers. It's like a thing, right? Right? Like, I have open source projects that I'm interested in and whatever. So, talk about, I mean, we're open here right now. This is fine. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings because this is something that I've done for years to you. And it's something that I'm teaching the audience, which apparently is you and myself right now, which is fine. This will get picked up eventually, like be popular. Just talk about some of the things. Hold on. Okay, we're back. Go ahead.
I don't even know what we were talking about because we've since argued about all the stuff you wouldn't let me complete saying.
So we talked about
because he interrupts everything I say. See, he's still interrupting me.
So we were talking about her COVID vaccine, and I want her to finish. What I really wanted her to talk about with the COVID vaccine is the problems. Even though she's had a hysterectomy, she has other problems, but I didn't want to point it out.
No, because you just interrupted me and wouldn't
let
me finish the conversation.
Go ahead. I want you to be comfortable with what we're talking about.
I'm fine.
I don't know what you're like. If I can't,
why don't you just shut up?
Just listen.
No, you just listen.
Right. Good.
This is what I deal with on a daily. Because
we're going to talk about moving here in a minute.
Okay, so because John has to be 100% in control of all of his businesses, his employees.
Stop.
No, you stop. He then filters this home to his wife and his children.
But I'm not
and
mean
this
to
is
you.
What
but
we're
I'm
trying
not.
To get
but
at.
Tell the people I'm not mean to you because I'm not mean to you.
You
but
interrupt.
I'm not.
You make sure your point is 100%
the focus. Just tell the people that I don't beat you.
No. You don't physically hurt me, but the fact that you won't just shut up and listen and just remain silent. You always have an input.
This is going to be legit. I'm not going to not put this out. Like the part where you basically tell people that I beat you.
You don't beat me. You just don't let me communicate.
Why?
Because you have to be in control 100% of the time. And
Why?
This is how you function in your job.
Why?
And you
function... Tell the people why I have to be in control.
Because that's how you cope.
Cope with what?
Stress.
Okay. I don't disagree.
But yet you interrupt me.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were talking about my COVID vaccine.
Well, we were until you just started flipping out. All I wanted was for you, we were going to kind of rewind. And I wasn't sure that you would be comfortable talking about your lady problems.
I'm 40. I have 3 children, and I educate young children on reproductive issues.
So will you please talk about... I alluded to the issue... Listen. I alluded to the issue today, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to intrude on you. And the fact that you're wanting to talk about this is awesome.
Are you going to let me talk?
So please.
Or are you going to interrupt?
Tell the story.
No, you're still interrupting.
And then we're going to talk about...
You're still interrupting.
Moving abroad.
Do you want to hear about my COVID experience, or do you want to intervene?
I don't know what to say right now. Go ahead.
I hope somebody calls him out on this.
I hope so too.
Because you have not heard a complete story yet. Because he interrupts every time I get started. You gonna say something?
Nope.
I know he wants to. He wants to say something. He's trying really hard to be in control.
Just tell the COVID.
You can't even not make a comment.
Just tell the COVID story.
So yes, back in April, May, I decided that I would partake in the COVID vaccine. Up until this point, I had been very leery after I'd had COVID myself.
Sorry. Can you rewind? Because I told the people today about how we got you tested every month.
Yes.
After you had COVID, and I think it's important.
Just shush.
I am a nurse, 4
years trained.
You would have skipped that part.
I would not have.
All right, go ahead.
If you would have let me actually talk about my COVID experience.
Go ahead.
You don't have a COVID experience, do you?
I have a COVID experience.
Do you have a COVID experience? Why have you shared your COVID experience? Why don't you share it? Because then that way we
My
get that out of the way.
COVID experience is getting tested 3 different ways. Face, anally. I didn't get anal, but whatever. I got tested for all these different ways that I didn't get COVID because my sister told me there's no way that you didn't get COVID after your wife had it. And not a single person in our house got it. So that's my COVID story. All I wanted for your COVID story was just tell us about after you got the vaccine, about your girl problems.
Thought you wanted to talk about the times I got tested for COVID.
Well, yes, that too. But I want you to talk about your girl problems that you've had after the COVID vaccine. I didn't want to explain it today, and if you don't want to explain it now, I'll cut it out. But you've been labor delivery nurse for so long, so these girl problems shouldn't be a problem for you. I mean, that's according to what you.
Are you going to shut up and let
I'm
me
out.
talk?
I'm out. Go ahead.
This is what I deal with on a daily.
I'm out.
Hourly.
And then.
Oh, here he goes again.
And then after this, we're going to talk about moving abroad, because we're going to be almost.
You still have yet to let me talk. You do know that, right?
We're almost going to be.
We're 5 minutes into this next video, and you have not.
We're actually 6 minutes. Go ahead.
And you have not let me talk.
Go ahead.
So back up to like minute 12, when John originally asked me about my COVID experience, because he's waxed and waned all over Timbuktu. I will clarify our relationship, our children, all of that in a video by myself, not when I've had too much to drink, and him as well. So anyway, back to my COVID experience. Yes, back in November over Thanksgiving, I had COVID. At that time, the vaccine was just being released. And had I not had COVID, I was 100% on board. I was getting that vaccine. I wanted to put an end to this. And after I had had my own COVID experience, being positive, I second thought and thought, that wasn't that bad. Why would I rush to get a vaccine? And so through visiting with peers, so back in November, it started to roll out. And at that time, the school nurses were eligible because we provide direct patient care. However, because of the limited amount of COVID vaccines available, back in November, December in the state of Iowa, they said if you had had COVID and tested positive, you were not eligible for 90 days. So that kind of bought me some time to think about it, to analyze it, to figure out if I thought the COVID vaccine was right for me. So fast forward to about January, the state of Iowa finally released and said, yes, we have enough vaccines that anybody could receive it. So I had a few fellow nurse peers who had COVID around the same time as me. So no, in our county back in November around Thanksgiving, that was when we had our big spike. In this community, a big spike was like maybe 100 people. John held up a 4. I would say closer to 100. That was our spike. But I was included in that, and I also had several peers that were included in that spike number at the Thanksgiving time frame. 2 of my close peers had received the COVID vaccine and had experienced quite a few symptoms. And so my approach is that I would go every other week for an antibody screen where they poke your finger, take 1 drop of blood, no more than a blood sugar check if you're diabetic, and scan it. And as long as I was positive for antibodies, I was not going to receive that vaccine. I just felt firmly that if my body could protect me in November and still had antibodies, that was my ticket. I trusted myself.
And I think it was one of those things where it was other people could get the vaccine because it was still in short supply.
Yeah, so at that time, they were very short supplies. They would have COVID clinics for vaccines that my mom was a part of, and it would be very limited populations, certain age groups, certain underlying diagnoses like heart conditions, lung conditions, diabetics, things like that, cancer patients. And so I thought, I can do my part. I have my own antibodies. I can protect myself. I will allow others to receive the COVID vaccine. So fast forward, continue to do them every other week. I had a close peer that was an NP, and she would just do them. Wouldn't ask questions, would just let me have them. I would pay for them. Would ask or would say, at some point you probably should consider it, but never pushed me, never pressured me to receive the COVID vaccine.
You looked at the line,
yep.
right?
So
like how dark it was, light it was, whatever.
So as long as I was positive for antibodies, I took it kind of like a pregnancy test that, in this case, 2 pink lines was A-okay. Whether they were dark, light, it didn't really matter. Sometimes they were really dark, really prominent. Other times I would go and they weren't. But that was kind of my way of making sure I was still safe from COVID. And that was my way of being able to continue to work in the schools and work with the patients or the students that I worked with and feel safe that I wasn't going to bring it home to my family at that point. I'd already brought it home to my family and nobody had tested positive.
Not a single person got sick.
Luckily, though, I was able to isolate in a bedroom and a bathroom alone. It was super hard on our kids. Maybe not so much on my husband. He got his own bed. He got his own bathroom. I still was cooking meals for him.
I
still
cooked for the first 2 weeks. I cooked.
I don't count frozen pizzas as a cooked meal.
Well, okay.
But
they were
really,
delicious.
For him, his life did not change a whole lot during those 2 weeks.
Except I couldn't go to work.
Except he had to walk to a shed instead of drive to town for
the
work.
brew shed. It's out over there.
So anyway,
okay.
So fast forward, my mom giving the vaccines was very adamant that I receive it, that I should receive it, that I shouldn't waste my time on antibody screens. I received other peer saying, why are you waiting? What is your hesitation? And I thought, if we want to travel this summer, this is prior to us having an intern, John's cousin living with us, I thought, well, if it came down to airlines or countries of choice to travel to, that if all I needed was a vaccine to enter their country, I'll get it. I felt worse after receiving both the first and second vaccine than I ever did when I had COVID. Now, granted, yes, I know I had a very mild case of COVID. I have felt worse with other illnesses. I think I alluded to that earlier before John interrupted me. He's biting his tongue right now. But I took my Tylenol, took my ibuprofen, went to bed early, laid on the couch, was cranky, was irritable, pushed through. However, after the second vaccine, I have had long-term effects, more so than I ever have had with COVID. And in my opinion, you can't change my mind as to why I have those symptoms. Prior to having the vaccine, I'm a longtime sufferer of migraine headaches. I take a medication twice a day for migraines. And I had experienced some migraines when I was more so when I was COVID positive, and those kind of went away. And I knew that at my next med checkup that I wanted to visit with them about decreasing my daily dose of needed meds and possibly removing them from my list of daily medications that I take. So I had been migraine free for several months, even after I had had COVID. Got the COVID vaccine, and I have been experiencing migraines again that I hadn't been experiencing before. Another thing that I have had since getting the COVID vaccine is, how do I want to say it? No predetermined factor for needing to use the restroom immediately. I can be shopping in Walmart, I can be at a friend's house, I can just be at home and immediately need to use the restroom. And it's an all-day event, all day long. No other symptoms, no fever, I'm not tired, I'm not sick to my stomach, it comes out of nowhere. Nothing that I can attribute to eating or doing the day before. Um, and now that the vaccine has probably, some of its potency has worn off, that has decreased. But the other thing is so I had mentioned earlier that I had an emergency hysterectomy after I had Emily when I was 3 months postpartum, on my 30th birthday, was I had a lot of hormone issues. And prior to my children, I've always had hormone issues, irregular cycles, acne. I was late to the menstruation world. I was almost 15. And so I've always kind of struggled with some issues. And so, with a lot of being proactive on my part, seeking out professionals that listened and were willing to work with me, I had really gotten that under control with compounded hormones. And post receiving the vaccine, my cycles have been very irregular. I'm not able, so my regimen is very based on me listening to my body, very calendar based, reading the calendar, listening to my body. And I would say prior to having the vaccine, I could judge within 2 days when I would cycle. And since having the vaccine, my cycle has been anywhere from 23 days to 35 days.
Even after having a hysterectomy, like, people out there maybe don't know that, like,
so I'm
after
still
you have a hysterectomy, you still have.
When I had my hysterectomy, they left both of my ovaries. They were healthy, they were functioning, and that would keep me at the age of 30. I wouldn't need to go through menopause until I became of age, 55, 60, 65. That would keep my skin clear, that would keep my hair full, that would keep my complexion healthy, that would keep my skin supple, that would keep my weight in check, and I would continue to cycle just as a normal female at the age of 30 would. Yes, I am now 40. Of course, you could say there are hormone changes that happen at 40, but like I said, I have a great physician that listens to me. I'm very in tune with my body. I'm very proactive. Being an OB nurse and just a nurse in general, and a female that is very in tune with their body, I noticed some very significant changes after I took primarily the second vaccine. So I took the one that was 3 weeks apart.
The Pfizer.
I had the Pfizer vaccine. And I'm not the only one that has experienced this. I have talked to a very close friend of mine, and she has also experienced many of the same symptoms and things that I have experienced. My acne has increased, and I do think that because of the regimen that I'm on and the calendar and my body, that my hormones are not correlating, they're not lining up. And so my skin has worsened in terms of acne on my back and my chest and my face that I hadn't experienced for quite some time. I felt I was very well controlled, very even, very predictable in my cycling as a female up until I had the COVID vaccine. Even when I was tested COVID positive, I could honestly say I did not notice any menstrual or female issues. And so I'm still trying to navigate that, work with it. I'm about 4 months post that, and I have yet to find a rhyme or a reason other than the vaccine that has changed in my lifestyle and the way I have progressed through my days that would cause these changes.
So I got 17% battery left in this new battery I put in, which is fine. I mean, you've talked about awesome things. Like, it's been a fun conversation, right? Let's talk about, just for a few minutes, what we're planning on doing. We had a great meeting today. We've talked about that at the beginning. Your fears, your nervousness about going elsewhere and firing. You obviously know what fire is by now. I mean, I've told you what that is. Can we talk about that for a couple of minutes? I mean, what you talked about has been like, it's stuff that I've alluded to in the previous videos, but I don't want to like talk about your life, right? Like what you're going through. It's not my place. But let's now talk about you as a mom, thinking about moving overseas. I guess it's overseas, moving to another country, and your nervousness and your nervousness about moving with me.
Yeah, so I'm apprehensively optimistic. I am, by personality, I am a fairly closed individual. Would you not
I would
agree?
agree. I would agree. You know, it took a long time to crack you.
I it takes me a long time to process how I'm feeling.
Well, it takes you a long time to make friends.
It does.
Like it does. Like for you to make a friend, it takes you a while.
It takes a long time or a lot to earn trust and my loyalty, and once you have it, you won't lose it unless you betray me.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that happens, you'll never have me back the way you had me before.
Sure.
And I know that about myself. And so I'm apprehensive just in the change, and it's a large change for our family. We've lived here for 11 years. This lifestyle has been pretty much our entire marriage. When I went to be 100% a stay-at-home mom, some of my apprehensions with that were, can I be 100% a mom? Not work, not have that as a professional outlet for myself, to not have an earning income, even though prior to that, for probably 2+ years, I was only on call, so the money wasn't reliable, but I was still bringing in money. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted a pair of jeans, or I wanted a manicure, or I wanted to do my hair, I could justify all of those purchases by thinking, but I did work that Tuesday. And John has never made me feel that it wasn't our money. He's never questioned a purchase. If I wanted to get my hair done or my nails or a new pair of jeans or a shirt or the kids needed stuff, it's always been our money. And so by taking on this endeavor, it's a way for us to spend that hard-earned money that he has more than earned, and our family has more than earned in this 20 years of an occupation. We have, as a family, have given a lot and have not always been compensated for that. And I feel like by making this move, it will make John healthier. And in turn, I hope that makes our family as a unit healthier. And maybe all of us just healthier physically, mentally. At times I've been a single parent. Probably most of the time I've been a single parent, because at any given time John could say he needs to work, he needs to fix that, he needs to go, which then puts me into single mom mode. And I know I cannot contact him, I can't text him, I can't call him. It all falls on me. And so I'm excited for the opportunity to it just be us. I've often said that John is a yes man until it comes to his family. And so I would love for us to be the yes in our life again. And I don't know if I can ever say we've been the yes in John's life. So, for that, I'm excited. I just see a lot of the work that's going to fall to me, and that creates some anxieties in terms of getting rid of stuff, in terms of getting us ready paperworks, applications that we've discussed that we're going to need, like global entry, visiting with insurance companies and lawyers, and I'm sure we'll meet again with our investor and our accountants. And I know I often joke that I'm John's personal assistant and that he is the real reason that I can't work. But I know a lot of that is going to fall on my shoulders, and the task of getting this house ready, because when we built this house, we said our children will pull us out in our wheelchairs, is daunting. It's a lot, and I know that's going to fall to me.
Well, I know that you have more to say about the other videos I've done, and it's getting late here. I'm almost out of battery, and I want to thank you for, chatting and talking tonight. It's been smile. It's been a fun conversation. I think you're excited about what the future holds, right?
I'm excited to hopefully have our family, and to leave some of the drama and the situational stresses that we're under being here.
Sure.
I'm excited to see, by not having that, what that will do for the growth of our family.
So what I'm getting at is like, you're excited about the future potential because I can't stay here.
Right.
If I stayed here, it would just
lifestyle will continue.
I mean, even if I retired from it all,
the contact,
I would still,
the social circles that we're involved in would not let you be 100% done.
Right. So,
the repercussions of being done, being a small community.
Yeah.
And the status that we hold in this community, we are truly Iowa nice.
I mean,
like,
do we hold a status here?
But there's no other way to describe us as Iowa nice. Like, our family as a whole will take care of anybody and everybody and everything.
But I think that'll follow us anywhere we go. I mean,
it will. But I'm just saying that that maybe we've been taken advantage of.
Okay.
And to not continue to be taken advantage of would be hard to part with, remaining in this community as we are.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm down to 5% battery. GoPros don't hold the battery.
Not on video.
Well, I've been telling people this like 6 videos ago. Like, these things don't hold battery. I don't know why anybody buys them, because they're terrible. But thank you for sitting here with me tonight and chatting. I mean, we've chatted for over an hour.
Past my bedtime.
It's totally past both of our bedtimes. But thank you for sitting here and chatting with me tonight. I mean, you've said things to me that, it's a hard swallow, but it's important, right? And it's okay. I mean, obviously we've been married for almost 20 years and we love each other.
17.
Almost 20. And we love each other.
Uses that newfangled math.
We're closer to 18 than we are to 0. But, we've been together for how many years?
Almost 22 years.
Almost 22 years we've been dating and whatever else. Not without our struggles. Someday I'd love to, in our video series here, talk about when we first got married and I was just addicted to work and he wrote me the letter. I'd love to talk more about that someday, right? I don't want to focus on it because it's such a minute part of where we are now. But yet I feel like it's a deep part of where we are now. and when the kids were born, and we have such a deep history. And I hope that you grab one of the boys' GoPros. I give you access to Vamos Familia, and you put some videos up and just own me.
You mean stay on one topic?
I mean, I'm all over the map, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't even let me complete a conversation.
That's how I do it. But hey, I love you, and you're my whole world, and the whole reason we are where we are now is because you've just been there with me, right? The whole time.
Sure.
So, anyways, I think that we should end it now. And I'll say, I hope you all have a good day, even though you can't even see me anymore because it's dark. Normally it's a morning thing. And I say, I hope you all have a good day. Well, I'm going to post this on this video will be Saturday morning. So I hope you all have a good day.
Good night.
And good night.